Very pleased to have with us in the mothership today, Julie Gunlock from the Independent Women's Forum. How are you, Julie?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. You have a different background
I
today
do.
than you
I'm
normally
in.
do.
I'm in the seat you normally sat in, which is really weird. I like the mic.
I like the mic too. You know, and not everybody. I'll be honest with you. Not everybody would get to do that. There'd be some people that'd say, "I'm sorry, you have to leave," but
Whatever.
you can stay. You're right. I
Let's
wouldn't
just
say
go
that.
with
That'd be
that's
incredibly rude of me, wouldn't it? But it looks
Yes.
good. It
Well,
looks
thank
good. I like
you.
the bright blue
Thank
backdrop.
you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So you've got this piece at IWF.org. This mom demands the truth on gun violence. Uh-oh, Julie Gunlock, you're going after the Moms Demand Action
I
folks.
know, it's scary. It's scary.
So what's the gist of this is this map, right,
Yeah.
from Every Town for Gun Safety, which is Moms Demand Action is underneath the Every Town for Gun Safety umbrella.
Right.
If you're wondering where in the flow chart this all works, but it's all Bloomberg
Right.
at the end of the day.
Right. I had seen this.
And so they had this map. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'd seen this pop up in my own Facebook feed, and yeah, you can tell us about the map because I'd started to see this pop up among my friends, and these are not, crazy reactionary dues-paying members of one of these Bloomberg front groups. This is. These are, very rational, concerned moms, and they saw this map saying that there have been 74 school, and they said Sandy Hook-like school shootings since Sandy Hook, and it was, and the sort of messages that went along with this map, these women would post this on Facebook, was, this is horrifying, this is terrible, something must be done. Some made some disparaging comments about the NRA, and it was shocking to see. This is exactly the reaction these groups are looking for, and again, it was kind of interesting for me to see this. Women I know, women who I find very rational, very smart. But look, this map is really convincing. When I then looked into it, something that these women unfortunately didn't do before posting it, I realized that it was a complete fabrication, something that CNN also had to admit. And frankly, if a woman if one of my friends puts up something on Facebook and doesn't do her research, I give her a pass. She's got a lot of other things to do. But isn't CNN supposed to be...
Well, hang on now. Don't go after CNN, because they were actually they didn't put it up and then retracted. They were out from the beginning saying, hey, this map from every town is overestimated.
But they did issue a statement saying that they had to back off of the claims, and so they put the map up for a while, and then they had to issue sort of an apology, which I think I put in my piece, saying, after further research, we realized that this map isn't accurate. I wish that news agency or news networks would actually do that before they promote these kinds of maps that totally misinform. I applauded CNN for coming out and telling their viewers the truth. I just wish they had done that before promoting the map in the first place.
Okay, now I confess I missed the apology and the earlier map, because I remember Jake Tapper pointing this out first to his BBC Breaking News on Twitter, and this was after Charles C. Johnson had done the work that you mentioned, and they said, well, we found 15, I think it was, and then Jake Tapper talked about it the next day. But, look, USA Today, I think, ran the map.
Sure. It's not just
MSNBC,
CNN.
I think, ran the map. NBC News, I know, ran the map because we talked about it from the folks at Newsbusters. And again, maybe they say it came from Every Town for Gun Safety. Maybe they don't. But again, what you're absolutely right. What they're trying to do is to leave the impression, and we have far too many members of the media who are happy to go along with it because I think they want to leave the impression that these types of horrific crimes are happening every day.
Every day.
Because that's what drives their debate, is fear, is going to, as you point out, you say, you feel bad for these moms who don't know the truth, because the message that they're getting from the media and the gun control advocates is every day these things are happening. This is why we need to do something vague that we can't really tell you about, but it ultimately involves banning guns.
Yeah, and again, this is a perfect story for the project that I run over at IWF, the Culture of Alarmism Project, where groups will promote absolute fabrication, absolute lies, and then it becomes a part. It sort of becomes a part of the culture. It becomes just this fact that nobody has debunked. Hopefully, with CNN retracting what they said, and with a lot of news agencies actually reporting the truth, hopefully the truth is out there now. But again, this is how these groups work. This is how they operate. They lie. They get people totally freaked out, and then they call for regulations. And that tends to work to some degree, especially among these, like I mentioned, the people in my own news feed who say, "Gosh, this is terrible. This is awful. Something must be done."
Absolutely. All right, listen, speaking of awful and something must be done, as you know, Julie, the school, and by the way, before we move on real quick, James Allen Fox, criminologist, Jake Tepper had him on as well, and he says, look, the number of these school shootings is not going up. The number of these mass shootings is not going up. And as a matter of fact, violent crime is going down.
Right.
When you consider, he looked at the statistics, and it's actually, not only is it going up, but per capita, Julie, the numbers are going down. We are having roughly the same number of these incidents that we had 40 years ago, but we have 100 million more Americans.
Right. Right.
You
right.
know,
there's a few more angry people out there. Yeah, crazy people out there. Yeah.
But again, per capita, we're having less of these crimes. And again, this is something that the media, which is supposed to be still news media, we forget that part, but the news media isn't really giving us a lot of news here. They're giving us a lot of their opinion, which is guns are bad, we need to get rid of them. Just like Michelle Obama says, parents deciding for their children what to eat. That's bad too, Julie, because doggone it. Smart people, really smart people, Harvard-educated people.
Yep. Even smart people.
They can't do it.
Michelle Obama was recently quoted as saying, I think it was yesterday, saying that first of all, I love the first part of the quote, which was, before I went to the White House, I struggled to feed my children healthy food, which is bizarre since she had a private chef who followed her to the White House, and she was, raking in a considerable salary on boards and in her own job, and obviously the president wasn't doing so bad. So this idea that they sort of, this constant need to sort of connect with struggling Americans, and we saw it with Hillary Clinton, who actually had the nerve to say she was flat broke when she and her husband left the White House. I mean, they make fools of themselves. Americans aren't stupid. They know that you were not with a personal chef employed in your home. The Obamas were not struggling to come up with healthy meals. They hired someone to help them with that. But the bigger idea here is how stupid she thinks the American public is. How hard is it to boil some rice and warm up a can of black beans and fry up a chicken breast? These things are not difficult to do. The reason she says this to people, she wants them to believe these things are hard. It's better that you turn your children's nutrition over to the schools. They'll do it for you. You're too dumb, you're too addled, you're too busy, you're too exhausted, the days are too short, whatever the reason is, or you don't have a Harvard degree. But the message is clear. She has very little confidence in the American public to simply make healthy food for their families, which isn't hard.
No, it's not. And it's amazing, to read some of these pieces. As you say, I struggled as a working parent with a traveling, busy husband to figure out how to feed my kids healthy. And I didn't get it right. Our pediatrician had to pull me aside and point out some things that were going wrong. I thought to myself, if a Princeton and Harvard-educated woman, a professional woman, doesn't know how to adequately feed her kids, then what are other parents going through who don't have access to the information I have?
Oh, please.
First of all, I'd like to know, if it's not too personal, I'd like to know a little bit more. What were you doing wrong?
Right.
Did they have scurvy? Did they have rickets? What were you doing wrong? So that perhaps because by getting specific and saying I was feeding my kids Lucky Charms every day, 3 meals a day, then perhaps you can warn parents against that. But some vague, nebulous, hey, I was doing it wrong, and the doctor actually had to tell me you're screwing up your kids. But I actually don't want to pass this information on to any other parents. Really?
I actually wrote about this back in 2011. I think it was when Michelle Obama was first doing her sort of tour of media of networks, talking about Let's Move when it was when Let's Move first started, and she was talking about this exact example of how. Sasha and Malia had started to gain weight. Their BMI was going up, and their family doctor, had warned her that her daughters were gaining weight. And her solution was, and she talked about this in many, many media outlets, her solution was to limit their treats, to make sure they were getting enough sleep at night, to limit their television consumption. She said she made sure that they were sitting down to family dinners, and she made sure that they were getting outside and getting more exercise. And again, she said something about switching their snacks from chips to carrots. All great things, but all of those things have one thing in common. They have nothing to do with the government. They have nothing to do with government programs, reforming the school lunch, doing anything like that. It's all about being a good parent. What's so sad about that is that she then, after giving all those interviews and talking about her personal experience trying to get Sasha and Malia to a better BMI, her then prescription for the rest of America is to give in to big government programs. The bigger school lunch program, more enrollees in the school lunch program, banning certain things in schools, telling restaurants and grocery stores what they should stock. So it's very frustrating that what was good for her, she doesn't think will work for the rest of America. And clearly part of that is because she doesn't think we're all have sufficient Ivy League educations, as she's recently.
Well, exactly. Right. I mean, listen.
If she
here's the
can't
thing.
figure it
The
out, my
Harvard-
God.
Well, the Harvard and Princeton degrees allowed her to communicate and understand what the doctor was telling her. Right. So that when he said things like maybe they shouldn't watch so much TV, she actually was able to understand that.
That's right.
Bumpkins like us, that's fancy medical talk. What
Yeah.
do you mean, doctor?
Right.
I don't understand.
You mean more TV? You mean go to bed
Right,
later?
exactly. Exactly. So that's why we need people like Michelle Obama to help us out. Our betters, exactly. But here's another quote. This doesn't even make any sense to me. It's so important for our schools to make the hard calls for our kids because parents are struggling enough at home. So, again, first of all, boy, is that not a blatant, hey,
Wow.
parents, let's
Wow.
take this burden off of your
Yeah.
shoulders and put it onto the schools where we're already messing up your kids' ability to do simple math and stuff.
Right.
So it's important for our schools to make the hard calls for our kids because parents are struggling enough at home. So once you make that decision to set the rules, you don't want to be undermined when your kids go to school and have some sweet cereal for breakfast with chocolate milk followed by a donut and then a burger and fries for lunch. That's why we're in the state we're in right now in regards to the epidemic of childhood obesity. There are a lot of yous there because I'm not really sure. Once I make the decision to set the rules, I don't want to be undermined when my kids go to school, so it's important for our schools to make the hard calls for the kids because I'm struggling enough at home. Julie, that's gobbledygook. That's not even circular logic. That's just gobbledygook.
No, it is, but it is really it.
And it's not because I'm a bumpkin, by the way. I don't even think that
If
makes
you
sense.
had
if
a
I
Harvard degree, you would get it.
Oh, she means watch less TV.
Right. Got it. Okay. I think, also what we're seeing here is they truly do think that parents are part of the problem, that parents feed their kids bad food. They don't control the kind of snacks their kids are eating. And the other thing is everything's about the food. Everything is about what bad things kids are eating. Kids also are not getting enough exercise. There was a study recently that said kids are getting on average 7 minutes a day outside playing. Of course kids are getting bigger if they're not playing outside and they're eating more snack foods and more sugary beverages. So it also, it sort of reveals that to them, it's all the food. It's all, how the government can improve the food. Parents are not a part of the solution. Parents have no role. And in fact, the advice is very clear. Parents should step aside. They're too busy. I love this, like parents are too busy. What else are you supposed to be doing at night but taking care of your kids? I mean, that's sort of like the point of being a parent. So it is, I think most Americans should look at this as some pretty, pretty awful advice from the White House and really reveals their opinion of most parents in America.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right because at the end of the day, look, this is couched in terms that make it seem like you're empowering parents. You're not. You're emasculating them.
Right. Exactly.
You're taking away their power. You're saying, give it up. Give up that authority. Give up that control.
We
Let
got
your
it.
kids eat all 3 meals at school.
And they
You
some
know, I mean, she
do.
talks about in that interview about breakfast.
Yep.
So drop your kids off at 6 in the morning, leave them there till get them enrolled in the after school program. We'll feed them dinner. You pick them up at 6 o'clock at night. You have an hour with your kid, then you put them to bed, and then we'll talk about how important parents are in the raising of children when we've left them with strangers for 12 hours a day.
That actually that actually happened when I got my child's sort of stack of papers that I had to review at the beginning of the year when he went to kindergarten. It said these are the sample menu of what's served at the school lunch through the school lunch program, and it said mornings are busy. Let us, they said, relax. Let us take care of breakfast. I couldn't believe it that their advice was actually to send your kid to school without breakfast because they do it for you. I mean, that's not good advice. I understand that some parents might have a job that they have to be there at 5 a.m. and they have to drop their kids off early. That's fine for those kids, but to actually advise all parents hey, take a load off, just drop your kids off at school hungry is absurd. Yet this is the advice being given to parents.
Julie Gunlock from the Independent Women's Forum, thank you, as always, for joining us in the studio. It's always a pleasure talking to you
Thanks for having me on.
about the most infuriating topics, but it's always a pleasure.
I always leave here angry.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Julie.